Have you ever been deeply disappointed by someone you trusted? Maybe it was a partner who ignored your feelings, or a conversation that left you questioning your worth. Imagine this. You confront him about something hurtful he did, and instead of owning up, he brushes it off. Frustrated, you either lash out, feel stuck in silence, or obsess over what went wrong. Sound familiar? But what if there's a better way? Picture this. The next time he disappoints you, instead of reacting with anger or retreating into hurt, you choose calm acceptance. You surprise him and yourself by staying grounded. No yelling, no pleading, just clarity and control. Suddenly, his actions no longer define your peace, and the power shifts back to you. This video is about reclaiming your emotional balance using the transformative power of Stoic philosophy. We'll explore how acceptance disarms manipulation, builds resilience, and creates healthier relationships. By the end, you'll have practical tools to handle disappointments with confidence and grace. If this resonates with you, stay with us. The best part is coming, and it might just change how you approach every relationship in your life. And now, I'd love to hear from you. How have you dealt with the pain of disappointment? Share your story in the comments below and join the conversation. Let's build a stronger, calmer community together. One, the silent power of acceptance. There's a moment in every relationship where disappointment feels inevitable. Perhaps it's a canceled date you were looking forward to, or he forgets something meaningful to you. Again, your initial instinct might be to call him out and let your frustration pour out in a cascade of words. Yet, no matter how justified your anger feels, the aftermath leaves you hollow. Why? Because reacting emotionally often hands over your power and peace to someone else. Now imagine a different scenario. The next time he lets you down, you pause. Instead of reacting with hurt or anger, you take a deep breath and choose silence. Not the kind of silence that builds walls, but the kind that radiates composure and self-respect. You say nothing that feeds into his expectation of conflict. Instead, you let your calmness be the loudest message. He notices, perhaps even stumbles in his confidence. Your silence isn't weakness, it's control. You've shifted the dynamic, reclaiming the power he thought he had over you. This is the essence of the silent power of acceptance. Marcus Aurelius, a renowned Stoic, taught that true power lies in controlling your mind, not external events. You can't change his behavior, but you can change how you respond to it. This practice isn't about bottling emotions, it's about mastering them. By choosing not to react, you protect your inner peace and communicate that his actions won't dictate your worth. Picture this. You're sitting across from him after he cancels plans for the third time in a month. Previously, you might have raised your voice or confronted him with sharp words, hoping he'd feel your hurt. But now, you decide differently. You meet his excuses with a calm nod and a serene smile that says, "I see you, but I'm not engaging in this dance anymore." Inside, you've already decided to prioritize your peace. He shifts uncomfortably, unsure of how to handle this unexpected response. You've made him question, not through confrontation but through composure. This approach is transformative. The silence you wield isn't empty. It's filled with power, clarity, and grace. It confuses those who expect reactions because they rely on your emotional upheaval to validate their actions. When you don't give them that, the game changes. You're no longer a pawn in their emotional chessboard. Instead, you become the calm lake, unshaken by the stone thrown into it, as the ripples fade back into stillness. So, how do you embrace this silent power in your relationships? Start small. When disappointment strikes, pause before you respond. Take a moment to breathe and reflect. Ask yourself, will reacting solve this or strengthen my position? More often than not, it won't. By holding back, you signal that your happiness isn't tied to their behavior. This isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about redirecting them to something that serves you, not them. Acceptance is a profound choice, one that sets you apart as someone who values her own peace and self-worth. The beauty of this approach is that it not only protects you but elevates you. When you refuse to react, you show that you're in control, not at the mercy of someone else's actions. This elevates your value in his eyes, and, most importantly, in your own. Stoic philosophy reminds us that the one thing we can always control is our response. No matter how chaotic the situation, your calmness becomes your strength. It's a shield, not a weapon, protecting your inner world from the storms of external chaos. Let your acceptance be a testament to your resilience and self-respect. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever chosen silence instead of reaction? And how did it change the situation? Share your story in the comments below with this affirmation. I choose acceptance over reaction. Let's inspire each other to embrace the power of peace. 2. Confusion as a tool for clarity. Disappointment in a relationship often feels like a whirlwind, unexpected, overwhelming, and exhausting. Maybe he cancels plans you were excited about, or he makes a thoughtless comment that stings. The first reaction might be to confront him, demanding explanations, hoping for an apology that soothes the wound. But instead, your words ignite a back and forth that leaves both of you feeling worse. The harder you try to make him understand, the more distant he seems. Now imagine a different response. Instead of reacting, you pause. You take a deep breath and meet his behavior with calm acceptance. No anger, no pleading. Just quiet composure that says, I see what you did, but it doesn't define me. Suddenly, he's unsure of how to respond. His expectation of your reaction is unmet, and the dynamic shifts. That moment of confusion for him becomes clarity for you. You realize that his actions reflect his character, not your worth. This is where the power of Stoic philosophy shines. Epictetus reminds us that people are troubled not by events, but by their interpretation of them. When you choose calm over conflict, you change the narrative. Instead of being drawn into his chaos, you remain centered. You send a silent message that his behavior is his burden, not yours. Picture this. You've been looking forward to a dinner date all week. But a few hours before, he texts to say he's stuck at work. No apology, no acknowledgement of how this might disappoint you. Previously, you might have fired back a curt reply, hoping to make him feel guilty or to argue about his priorities. But now, you choose a different path. You reply with a simple, I understand, let's catch up soon, and you carry on with your evening, read a book, call a friend, or enjoy some quiet time. Your calm response leaves him wondering. He expected anger or frustration, but instead, you've shown him that your happiness doesn't hinge on his actions. By doing this, you regain control, not over him, but over yourself. The confusion you create isn't manipulation, it's a byproduct of your strength. When you don't react, you deny him the power to shape your emotions. This isn't about suppressing feelings, but about channeling them into something productive, something that serves your peace. Acceptance in this context isn't about tolerating disrespect or lowering your standards. It's about understanding that your emotional response is yours to control. When you choose acceptance, you become a mirror reflecting his actions on him, forcing him to confront the reality of his behavior. And in that reflection, he sees your resilience, your dignity, your worth. In practice, this means pausing when emotions run high. When disappointment strikes, ask yourself, will reacting change the outcome, or will it only rob me of my peace? Most often, it's the latter. Instead of engaging in drama, redirect your energy towards something that enriches you. Journaling your thoughts, going for a walk, or indulging in a hobby. This isn't avoiding the problem, it's addressing it with wisdom and clarity. Stoic philosophy teaches us that calmness is a form of strength, and strength often confounds those who expect weakness. When you don't react as expected, it forces a reevaluation, not just of the situation, but of you. And that's the beauty of this approach. It doesn't diminish you, it elevates you. So the next time he disappoints you, let your calm acceptance do the talking. Not only will it protect your peace, but it will also remind him and you that your worth is untouchable. You are not here to chase validation or prove your value. You are here to live with grace and resilience. Now tell me, have you ever left him puzzled by your calm acceptance? How did it unfold, and what did it teach you about yourself? Please share your story in the comments below, and let's inspire each other to embrace this empowering mindset. 3. The role of gratitude and forgiveness. Heartbreak in love often feels like a storm cloud hovering over you, heavy and persistent. Perhaps he made a promise he didn't keep, or his words were sharp when you needed kindness. In those moments, it's easy to let resentment take root, replaying the hurt in your mind like a never-ending loop. You may have confronted him, hoping for an apology that would ease the ache, but instead, the confrontation spiraled, leaving you both further apart. Now imagine shifting your perspective. Instead of dwelling on his mistakes, you pause and turn inward. You choose gratitude, not for the pain he caused, but for the lessons it brings and the clarity it offers about your strength. You pair this with forgiveness, not to excuse him but to release yourself from the emotional weight. Together, gratitude and forgiveness transform disappointment into freedom. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, often spoke of gratitude as the foundation of happiness and forgiveness as a gift we give ourselves. By choosing these, you reclaim your emotional peace and elevate your self-worth. This doesn't mean you forget his actions or tolerate repeated hurt. It means you rise above it, untethered to the negativity he brought into your life. Picture this. You planned a weekend getaway together. You imagined laughter, sunsets, and time to reconnect. But at the last minute, he cancels, giving you a vague excuse that feels more like an afterthought. In the past, you might have confronted him angrily or pulled back into silence, consumed by disappointment. This time, you decide differently. You reflect on what you're grateful for, the clarity his inconsistency provides about what you truly deserve. You forgive, not because his behavior was acceptable, but because holding on to the hurt would only harm you. Instead of reacting, you shift your focus to planning a weekend for yourself, one filled with joy, peace, and self-care. In this moment, you embody the essence of Stoic resilience. Gratitude helps you see the bigger picture, focusing on abundance rather than lack. Forgiveness frees your heart from bitterness, allowing you to move forward unburdened. This isn't about letting him off the hook, it's about untying yourself from the emotional chaos. When disappointment strikes, remember that forgiveness doesn't condone his actions, it liberates you from them. Gratitude doesn't ignore the hurt, but redirects your energy toward the positives in your life. These are acts of self-respect and empowerment, not submission. To practice this, start small. At the end of each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand: a kind word from a friend, the warmth of the sun, or a moment of peace. Over time, this habit rewires your perspective, making it easier to see beyond the pain. For forgiveness, repeat this mantra: I release this for my peace, not for him. Let it remind you that your serenity is worth more than holding on to resentment. Forgiveness and gratitude create a ripple effect in your life. They help you reclaim emotional space once occupied by anger and disappointment. They allow you to respond to his actions with grace and dignity, showing that your happiness is rooted in your own strength, not his behavior. Have you ever faced a situation where gratitude or forgiveness shifted how you felt about someone's actions? How did it change your perspective? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience could inspire others to embrace these transformative tools. 4. Acceptance as a form of self-empowerment. When disappointment strikes in a relationship, it often feels personal. His words or actions seem like a direct attack on your worth, pulling you into a spiral of hurt and self-doubt. You might have found yourself reacting impulsively, hoping to defend your value or salvage the connection. But every time you react in frustration or anger, it's as if you hand him the reins to your emotional well-being. What if you reclaimed those reins? What if, instead of reacting, you chose acceptance as a deliberate act of self-empowerment? Acceptance isn't about tolerating disrespect or resigning yourself to poor treatment. It's about recognizing that your peace is yours to protect. It's saying, I will not let your actions dictate my emotional state. This shift transforms how you see yourself and how others see you. It's a silent declaration of strength, one that commands respect without uttering a word. Imagine this. You've planned a meaningful evening together, a chance to reconnect, to escape the chaos of everyday life. But at the last minute, he cancels with a flimsy excuse. In the past, this might have led to an argument. You might have pleaded for him to see your side or lashed out in anger. But now you choose differently. You pause, breathe, and remind yourself that his choices are a reflection of him, not you. You send a calm reply, I understand, let's plan something when the time is right. Then, instead of stewing in disappointment, you pour that energy into yourself, reading, relaxing, or spending time with loved ones. Your reaction, or lack thereof, leaves him surprised, even unsettled. You've shown him that your happiness isn't tethered to his decisions. This is the essence of self-empowerment through acceptance. It's rooted in the Stoic principle of control. As Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. By choosing acceptance, you reclaim the narrative. You're no longer a victim of circumstances, but a master of your emotions. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means directing them towards something constructive, something that uplifts you rather than diminishes you. To empower yourself through acceptance, begin with your mindset. Instead of asking, "Why did he do this to me?" ask, "What can I learn or gain from this moment?" Reframe disappointment as an opportunity to practice resilience and self-respect. The more you do this, the stronger your emotional foundation becomes, making it harder for anyone to shake your sense of self. Take another example. He promises to meet you after work, but doesn't show up. You sit there, waiting, feeling anger and hurt rise like a tide. Before, you might have sent a flurry of messages demanding an explanation, feeding the tension. This time, you take a different route. You acknowledge your feelings privately, maybe even write them down to process them. Then, you go about your evening, enjoying a solo dinner, or connecting with a friend. When he finally contacts you, your response is calm but firm. "I was disappointed, but I won't dwell on it. Let's discuss how we can communicate better next time." Your composure not only preserves your dignity, but also challenges him to rise to your level. Acceptance is a quiet revolution. It shifts the focus from what he did wrong to what you can do right for yourself. It's not about winning or losing. It's about choosing your peace over his chaos. This approach often leaves him confused at first, accustomed as he might be to reactive patterns, but it also forces him to recognize your strength. And in that recognition, the dynamic of your relationship begins to change. Stoicism teaches us that self-worth isn't something others can grant or take away. It's something you cultivate within through the choices you make daily. Acceptance is one of those choices, a powerful one that transforms not just your relationships, but your entire perspective on life. Have you ever chosen acceptance as a way to reclaim your emotional strength? How did it change the situation? Share your story in the comments. Let's inspire each other to embrace this empowering mindset. 5. Disrupting emotional cycles. In relationships, we often fall into patterns that feel impossible to escape. Perhaps it's the same argument repeating itself, or a predictable cycle of disappointment followed by regret. When he lets you down, maybe he forgets an anniversary or dismisses your feelings, it triggers something deeper. It's not just about the present moment, but a reflection of the past, perhaps even patterns you learned growing up. Reacting feels automatic, almost inevitable. But what if you could break the cycle? At first, you might not realize how much these patterns control you. You react emotionally, hoping to feel understood or to hold him accountable, but the argument escalates. Instead of resolution, there's more tension, and you find yourself replaying the scene in your mind, wondering what you could have done differently. Now imagine another possibility. The next time he disappoints you, instead of reacting, you pause. You see the cycle for what it is, an unhelpful loop you no longer want to be part of. Instead of arguing or retreating into silence, you accept the situation and choose to respond calmly, breaking the pattern that once held you captive. This shift is powerful and rooted in Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed in examining our habits and behaviors, identifying those that don't serve us, and replacing them with conscious choices. Epictetus reminded us that while we can't control others' actions, we have complete control over our responses. Recognizing and disrupting these emotional cycles is the first step toward reclaiming your peace and reshaping the dynamic of your relationship. Imagine this. He forgets an important occasion, like your birthday. You've told him before how much it means to you, but this year, he completely overlooks it. In the past, this might have sparked a heated argument or days of icy silence. But this time, you choose differently. You acknowledge your disappointment privately, journaling your feelings instead of unleashing them on him. When he realizes his mistake and offers a rushed apology, you accept it with grace, saying, "I appreciate you noticing that. It's important to me, and I'd like us to be more mindful in the future." Your response, calm and composed, leaves him surprised. Instead of spiraling into conflict, you've broken the cycle and opened the door to better communication. This doesn't mean ignoring your feelings or tolerating bad behavior. It means responding in a way that aligns with your values and prioritizes your inner peace. By stepping out of the reactive pattern, you regain control and create space for growth, both for yourself and the relationship. Breaking emotional cycles isn't easy, but it's transformative. It starts with self-awareness. When emotions run high, pause and ask yourself, is this reaction serving me, or is it keeping me stuck? Journaling can be a helpful tool for reflection, allowing you to process your feelings without escalating the situation. Over time, this practice becomes second nature, and you'll notice how much more empowered you feel. Stoicism teaches us that growth comes through deliberate effort, not through passive acceptance of the status quo. Each time you disrupt an emotional cycle, you're choosing to grow, evolve, and prioritize your peace over the chaos of conflict. This isn't about being passive or indifferent. It's about being intentional and wise in your actions. Have you ever recognized and broken an emotional cycle in your relationship? How did it change things for you? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might inspire someone else to take that first step toward freedom. 6. Micro steps to build the habit. Building acceptance in relationships isn't an overnight transformation. It's a practice, like planting seeds and nurturing them daily. Each small choice, each pause before reacting, strengthens the roots of your emotional resilience. When he does something that disappoints you, perhaps he cancels plans last minute or forgets something important, you might feel an immediate urge to respond, to make your frustration known. But these moments offer an opportunity, not for reaction, but for reflection. Think of your initial reaction like a spark in dry grass, quick, uncontrolled, and likely to create unnecessary chaos. Now imagine instead pouring water over that spark. It fizzles out quietly, leaving no damage. This is the power of micro steps. Each time you choose to pause, breathe, and redirect your energy, you reinforce your ability to respond wisely. Over time, these small moments accumulate, creating a foundation of strength that is unshakable. This practice aligns beautifully with Stoic philosophy. The Stoics emphasized daily habits as the pathway to mastery. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. By cultivating habits that nurture acceptance, you train your mind to focus on what you can control, rather than getting lost in the whirlwind of external events. Imagine this. He cancels dinner plans again, giving you a hurried excuse that feels half-hearted. Your frustration bubbles up, but instead of reacting impulsively, you decide to take a different approach. You pause, take a deep breath, and reflect on how you want to handle the situation. You pick up a journal and write down your thoughts, what disappointed you, why it matters, and what you want to communicate. Later, when the moment is right, you share your feelings calmly, saying, I was looking forward to tonight, and I'd like to understand how we can prioritize these plans in the future. Your response isn't about blame, it's about connection and clarity. This shift might seem small, but it's profound. Each time you pause, you build a habit of emotional control. It's like training a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger it becomes. At first, it might feel unnatural, even difficult, but with consistency, you'll notice a change, not just in your reactions, but in how he begins to see you. Your calmness, your ability to rise above the immediate emotion, will stand out. It speaks of confidence and self-respect, qualities that command admiration. To begin building these habits, start with simple actions. When disappointment strikes, count to 5 before responding. Use that moment to focus on your breath. Journaling is another powerful tool. It gives you space to process emotions without the risk of escalating conflict. Over time, these small practices become second nature, helping you navigate even the most challenging situations with grace. The Stoics understood that transformation isn't about monumental shifts, but about the discipline of daily choices. They believed that small, consistent actions shape character and lead to lasting growth. By adopting these micro steps, you embody the Stoic principle of progress, steadily becoming the person you aspire to be. So the next time he lets you down, resist the urge to react in the heat of the moment. Instead, let those small steps guide you. Pause, breathe, reflect, then respond with calmness and clarity. These actions aren't just about managing your emotions, they're about reclaiming your power, honoring your self-worth and creating a stronger, more respectful dynamic in your relationship. Have you ever used small, deliberate steps to handle disappointment in a relationship? How did it change the outcome? Share your experience in the comments, and let's explore how these micro steps can transform not just relationships, but ourselves. 7. The art of setting boundaries. Boundaries are the invisible lines that protect your emotional well-being, but in relationships, they often get blurred. When someone you love disappoints you, whether it's through dismissive comments or failing to meet promises, it's easy to let resentment build, silently hoping they'll notice and change. But without clear boundaries, you're left vulnerable to repeated patterns of hurt. Setting boundaries isn't about shutting someone out, it's about showing them how to respect your space while maintaining a healthy connection. Think of boundaries as the walls of a beautiful garden. Inside, you nurture peace, self-worth, and clarity. Without walls, the garden becomes overrun, its beauty lost to outside chaos. By establishing boundaries, you're not rejecting someone. You're preserving the sanctuary within, ensuring it thrives. This act, though quiet and understated, holds immense power. It communicates self-respect, which in turn compels others to treat you with care. In relationships, boundaries often feel like a risky move. You may worry that asserting your needs will drive him away. But the truth is, boundaries elevate your value. They signal that you're not willing to compromise your self-worth for anyone. When he knows your limits, it forces him to consider his actions. Boundaries aren't barriers, they're guidelines for mutual respect. Imagine this: he consistently interrupts you during conversations, dismissing your points or steering the topic back to himself. In the past, you might have let it slide, swallowing the frustration to avoid conflict. But each time it happens, it chips away at your confidence and peace. This time, you decide to act differently. The next time he interrupts, you calmly say, "I value our conversations, but I need to finish my thoughts before moving on. Can we try that?" Your tone is firm but kind, and your message is clear. Your voice matters. At first, he may be caught off guard, even uncomfortable. But over time, he starts to notice the strength in your calm assertiveness. Your boundary doesn't create distance. It creates understanding, and in the process, you've reclaimed a part of yourself that once felt ignored. This approach aligns perfectly with Stoic principles. The Stoics believed in taking responsibility for what you can control, your actions and emotions, while letting go of what you cannot. Setting boundaries is an act of control over your inner peace. Epictetus said, "No one can hurt you without your consent." By establishing limits, you're refusing to give that consent. Boundaries aren't just about protecting yourself from harm. They're about fostering healthier interactions. When you set clear limits, you invite others to meet you at a place of mutual respect. This doesn't mean every boundary will be met with understanding, but the ones that matter will reveal who values your worth and who doesn't. To begin practicing this, reflect on the areas where you feel overwhelmed or undervalued. Ask yourself, what needs to change for me to feel at peace? Then, communicate those needs calmly but firmly. For example, if he often cancels plans, you might say, "I understand that things come up, but I value reliability. Let's discuss how we can manage this better moving forward." The key is clarity and consistency. Your boundaries are only as effective as your commitment to uphold them. By setting boundaries, you transform the way others perceive you. Your calm, confidence, and self-respect become undeniable, leaving little room for anyone to diminish your value. Over time, this practice not only protects your peace, but also strengthens your relationships. People begin to see you as someone who knows her worth, and they respond accordingly. 8. Embracing the ripple effect. When you embrace acceptance, something remarkable begins to happen. It doesn't just transform you, it changes the way others perceive and interact with you. Acceptance, paired with emotional control, creates a ripple effect in relationships, turning tension into trust and conflict into understanding. Instead of chasing validation or reacting impulsively, you radiate calmness, becoming the steady anchor in uncertain waters. Think about the times he's made you question the strength of your connection. Maybe it was a thoughtless comment during a heated discussion, or his reluctance to take accountability for his actions. Your initial instinct might have been to defend yourself or fight for clarity. These reactions, while natural, often escalate the issue, creating more distance. But when you choose acceptance, something shifts. You stop engaging in the same destructive cycles and instead foster an environment where vulnerability and trust can flourish. Imagine standing in a still lake, tossing a small pebble into the water. The ripples stretch outward, touching everything in their path. Acceptance works the same way. Your decision to stay composed doesn't just affect your emotions, it influences his behavior too. When he expects conflict but encounters calmness, it forces him to reevaluate his actions. You become the reflection of what he needs to see, someone who values herself enough to respond thoughtfully, not impulsively. Picture this. He accuses you of being too sensitive after you express your feelings. In the past, you might have felt the need to defend yourself, leading to an argument that leaves both of you feeling unheard. But now, you choose differently. You take a deep breath and respond calmly. I hear what you're saying. Let me take a moment to process this. Your unexpected composure catches him off guard. He expected anger, maybe even tears. But instead, you've shown strength. That ripple of acceptance not only preserves your peace but challenges him to approach the situation with more care. This approach isn't about avoiding important conversations or tolerating disrespect. It's about creating a space where communication is possible without the weight of unnecessary conflict. By choosing calmness over chaos, you show him that your peace isn't negotiable, and it sets the tone for healthier dynamics moving forward. Stoic philosophy provides a solid foundation for this practice. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." This principle applies to relationships as well. Instead of arguing about what he should or shouldn't do, focus on embodying the qualities you value: patience, composure, and strength. Your actions become the ripple that inspires change, not through force but through quiet influence. This ripple effect also extends to the way you perceive yourself. Each time you choose acceptance, you strengthen your self-worth. You remind yourself that your emotional stability doesn't depend on external circumstances or someone else's behavior. It's yours to protect and nurture. Over time, this practice transforms not just your relationships but your sense of identity, allowing you to navigate life with greater confidence and clarity. To start embracing this ripple effect, practice pausing before responding in moments of conflict. When emotions rise, focus on your breath and ask yourself, will this response serve my peace? If it won't, choose silence or a measured reply. This small act creates a ripple that reaches beyond the moment, influencing not just the conversation, but the relationship as a whole. Acceptance isn't about surrendering your needs or silencing your voice. It's about creating an environment where those needs can be met without unnecessary friction. It's about showing him and yourself that your calmness is your strength and your self-respect is non-negotiable. 9. Mindfulness and modern acceptance. In the chaos of modern relationships, moments of disappointment often feel magnified. He forgets to call when he promised, cancels plans without explanation, or seems distracted when you need him most. Each instance stirs up emotions, frustration, hurt, or even anger that demand a reaction. At first, it feels justified, even necessary, to express your disappointment immediately. But what if, instead of reacting, you paused? What if you used that moment to reflect and center yourself? This is where mindfulness becomes the key to mastering acceptance. Mindfulness is the art of staying present, of observing your emotions without letting them control you. When disappointment strikes, your first instinct may be to ask why he let you down, to replay the moment over and over, hoping to find clarity in the confusion. But this habit traps you in a cycle of reaction, where your peace is tethered to his actions. Mindfulness breaks this chain, allowing you to step back, breathe, and remind yourself that your worth is not tied to his behavior. Imagine disappointment as a storm cloud rolling in, dark and overwhelming. In the past, you might have run into the rain, letting it soak you, feeling cold and defeated. But now you choose to watch the storm from a place of shelter. You see it for what it is, temporary, passing, and you remain calm, grounded, and dry. This is the power of mindfulness in the face of emotional turbulence. In Stoic philosophy, mindfulness is closely tied to the principle of focusing on what you can control. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the importance of living in the present, of letting go of anxieties about the past or future. When you embrace mindfulness, you embody this teaching, reclaiming your emotional balance in the midst of life's storms. Picture this. You've been looking forward to a weekend getaway with him, a chance to reconnect and relax. But at the last minute, he cancels, citing work obligations. Your disappointment is immediate and sharp, like a sudden gust of wind knocking you off balance. Before, you might have sent a flurry of texts questioning his priorities or venting your hurt. Instead, you pause. You close your eyes, take a deep breath, and acknowledge your feelings. Yes, you're disappointed, but you won't let this moment define your day. You pour your energy into something fulfilling, reading a book, meeting a friend, or enjoying a peaceful walk. By the time he reaches out, you've regained your calm, ready to address the situation with clarity and grace. This approach not only protects your inner peace, but also changes the dynamic of your relationship. When he expects anger, but encounters calm acceptance, it forces him to reflect. Your mindfulness creates a ripple effect, showing him that your happiness isn't dependent on his actions, but rooted in your ability to control your responses. Over time, this shifts the way he sees you, elevating your value in his eyes. To cultivate mindfulness, begin with small daily practices. Dedicate 5 minutes each morning to mindful breathing, focusing on the sensation of air filling your lungs and leaving your body. When disappointment arises, use this same technique to center yourself before responding. Visualization can also be a powerful tool. Imagine your emotions as waves on the ocean, rising and falling, but always returning to calm. Mindfulness is not about ignoring your feelings or suppressing your voice. It's about giving yourself the space to process emotions without letting them overwhelm you. By staying present and accepting the moment as it is, you gain the clarity to respond intentionally, not impulsively. When you practice mindfulness, you embody the Stoic ideal of emotional resilience. You become the calm in the storm, the steady anchor in turbulent waters. This not only strengthens your sense of self, but also transforms the way others interact with you. Mindfulness allows you to show up in relationships with authenticity and grace, creating a foundation for deeper trust and understanding. Life's challenges, especially in relationships, test not just our emotions but also our capacity for growth. The disappointments, the unmet expectations, and the moments of frustration often feel overwhelming. Yet within these trials lies an extraordinary opportunity. The chance to cultivate acceptance, emotional control, and mindfulness, transforming how we navigate both our inner world and the dynamics with others. The lessons of acceptance, inspired by Stoic philosophy, teach us that true strength lies in controlling our reactions, not external events. When you pause instead of reacting, when you embrace gratitude and forgiveness, and when you set firm yet kind boundaries, you reclaim your power. Each choice to respond with calmness rather than anger is a step toward building resilience and inner peace. These practices not only protect your emotional well-being, but also elevate your self-worth, fostering healthier, more authentic relationships. The journey to mastering these principles doesn't require perfection, just consistency. Start small, a moment of mindfulness in the morning, a pause before responding to disappointment, or a journal entry reflecting on gratitude. Over time, these practices become habits, shaping your character and transforming your life. Remember, this isn't just about relationships with others. It's about the relationship you have with yourself. By choosing acceptance, you honor your worth and embrace the peace that comes from within. Now, I invite you to reflect. Have you experienced a moment when choosing acceptance changed the outcome? Share your story in the comments below. Let's inspire and learn from each other as we grow in strength, resilience, and clarity. Together, we can build a community rooted in calmness, self-respect, and the empowering practice of acceptance.